Good evening and welcome to Kidlit Live. I'm Arden Jones, and tonight I'm really excited because I have my agent, the wonderful Molly Jamieson. She is with United Agents, and I've been wanting to chat to her for ages on Kidlit Live, so I'm so excited that she's coming on tonight. I have some great questions. We're going to talk about her journey into agenting, what her manuscript wishlist looks like, what the gaps in the market are. So it's going to be a really good show. So do tune in, or stay tuned in even, share with your friends, and visit the YouTube channel, like, subscribe, and all that jazz. So let's bring Molly on. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Just happier now that we've got some lovely sunshine, which
Oh,
also
isn't it
makes
nice?
yes. Yeah, I mean, the summer's been like a washout, right? So
It's terrible. I feel like maybe this is our one big day of summer, although apparently it's going to be 29 degrees next week. So,
oh, really? Oh, what have I got? I don't even know what I've got planned for next week. Beach. I need to find the beach.
oh, please get out.
Oh, and hi, Chris. Chris has just said
Hi,
hello. I don't
Chris.
know. Can you see the chat, Molly?
Yeah, I can see
Yeah.
it.
Oh, it's really good because my chat wasn't working, so I had to and I'm not the most technical, so I'm like fiddling around with YouTube, and then figured out that I had like this is only for children, so and then you can't comment on children's videos, which is a good thing, obviously, but I've been saying to people, just if you would need to comment or anything, just comment on YouTube, and people are like, I
You
can't,
can't.
but they can. So yeah, hello, Chris
Oh,
again.
good.
Oh, so thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me.
I've been really looking forward to this, and I think so many people will really enjoy just hearing from an agent at the moment, and things are really tough out there. So I think it would be really, really helpful for people. So I'm so thankful that you came on. Um, so yeah, like usually when I first start, I ask people how they got into writing and illustrating. So as you're my first agent on the show, so have you always known that you wanted to be a literary agent?
No. I think most people, when you're a kid, it's not a job that you are aware exists. And then as you start to learn a bit more about publishing, like if you know, as a teenager, I used to do loads of writing, and you always start doing the research and trying to figure out how that happens, how this book that all these books that you've been reading have come into being. And then you do a bit of research, and you know that you need an agent, but you don't know why or what an agent does. I think that's all still quite mysterious to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Understandably. And I feel very lucky in that I kind of fell into it accidentally. I graduated, and then I got an internship at an agency at Curtis Brown in London. Because basically, I knew after I graduated I wanted to move to London and just see what all the fuss was about. So I moved here, and then I was very lucky. I got an internship quite quickly, which I know is not the case for a lot of people. I did apply once and not get it, and then applied again and got it. So it wasn't that easy, but and I just really, really liked it. I think when you think about going into publishing, everyone thinks about going into editorial, and I love doing editorial work, so I always thought that would be kind of where I might end up if I did go in the publishing route. But actually, working on the agency side, I just loved the idea of being on the author's side of things and sort of advocating for somebody in that way was really appealing to me. And you also get to do a lot of the editorial work, which is nice. You can kind of decide how you want to do it, but I really like focusing on that. So yeah, I wanted to be on the author side and helping people. I just sound really lame. I'm trying not to say helping people's dreams come true, but like there's
No, you
definitely an
are.
element of that. That's certainly the goal. And yeah, and I just really love books, and I love people who love books. So I stuck around basically.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm so glad that you did. So can you tell us a bit more about your role as an agent? So like, what does it look like? What's your like day-to-day activity?
Sure.
What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think I've got quite a weird job, but actually, you know, the most of the time I sit at a desk behind a computer and have meetings and answer emails. Like that's a huge part of my job. I do I come into the office a few days a week. I work from home a couple of days ever since everything that happened in 2020. And the hybrid working, I think, works really well for us because a lot of our job involves reading. So, I would used to read on my commute all of the time. And now actually on my working from home days, I use my commute time to read on my sofa, which is much more fun than reading on a crowded tube. And yeah, so I come in, I get a cup of coffee, obviously, usually on my way in because our coffee machine is not very good. And I usually go through submissions for the first sort of half hour of the day, just sort of checking anything that's come in overnight, and in case there's anything that I absolutely have to read right now and have to cancel everything to read.
But people should sub to you in the middle of the night so they can so you can read.
I wouldn't say that's necessarily the best thing to do, but for your own sake. But yeah, it's because I need to get to the stuff that I'm going to action on the day, so I sort of want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. And then I usually do a kind of a concentrated submission session some other time, but have a quick glance through in case anything catches my eye. And then I do a lot of contract work. So that's a huge part of being an agent, is negotiating contracts, checking everything is in order, making sure that no one's getting screwed over by a sneaky extra clause that shouldn't be there. And yeah, trying to make sure everyone's in a good position. And then I often have lunch meetings or coffee meetings with people. I sort of prefer coffee meetings because lunch meetings tend to go on a really long time and take off a lot of my work day. So I could do an hour for a coffee. That feels really good. And it's nice to get out of the office. And yeah, what do I even do? What is my job? It's really hard to know. I think I answer a lot of emails, do a lot of maintenance and of various things. I invoice, lots of admin and lots of reading and lots of emails, many emails all the time.
Yeah, I think like so many people just think like until they're like with an agent or really like sort of researched what agents do, that you're just like reading basically most of the day, but there's so much else that you do. I recently watched I think it was a day in the life of an agent, like with John Baker, and
yeah,
here, there, and everywhere in this one day. I was like, how does he do it? It's like so, yeah.
I've seen that. John's a friend of mine, and he showed it to me because he was like, "You haven't seen my TikTok?" And it's very interesting. It's funny seeing how differently people work as well, because I think he will sometimes do a day half in the office and half at home, which I find I need to kind of be in one place, and I go off, like if I'm having my meetings in person, I'm in my like out of the house day.
I mean, I think that makes sense. I can understand that. I think I'd probably be quite similar, because when you're at home and you've got your day kind of set out at home and then going out and then coming back, it's kind of a bit off-putting. When you're going out to work to there, I can kind of understand that.
Yeah, it's I think there are good and bad ways to do both. I've definitely done both ways, but it's funny. The job, I think it looks very different to every agent as well. I think no two agents will have the same working day and the working process. So what else do I even do? A lot of it, so obviously we do a lot of submissions as well for our clients. That's not every day, I think, is why I'm like, I didn't do that today, so it must not be my everyday. But yeah, we do lots of, we draft submission lists, we chat to editors about upcoming books to get them excited. And then we send out books for people to read and hopefully make an editor interested, and then they get to take it and make their sales team interested and their managing directors interested and excited, and then hopefully author, and then we'll take that through from the very beginning of someone's career right to their book being published and beyond. So there's a lot of bits to it, but it's not every day is that exciting, but it's all in it's all for the good.
Yeah, and there's like, I've seen quite a few, because it's been summer, so there's been more parties than usual, so you're getting all these parties, invitations and things. It's all so exciting.
It's a funny thing. I think I started to notice a few of us getting a little bit jaded, which feels extremely privileged. We're being like, oh no, another party this week, how are we going to cope? But actually, I remember when I first started out, the idea of going to these parties was so exciting, and it's when you're there, it's amazing, and it's just so nice to see all these people that I just email all the time, and I'm like, that's who you are. That's that's who you are as a person. You're not just a name on the other side of an email address.
It's so nice, like, be able to meet people in real life now again, because like you mentioned earlier, like things have really changed, obviously, and now like the hybrid working and stuff. But like, since you've started working at United Agents, do you feel like there's been, as well as the pandemic, like there's been other changes in the publishing industry, and like, what kind of things do you envision happening in the future with publishing?
Oh God, that's a big question. I think there's lots of things that have really changed dramatically for the better. I think, especially, I mean, it's hard not to link everything back to COVID and everything that happened in 2020, but I definitely feel, and we've all seen, a huge push towards more diverse publishing and really considered publishing in that way, which is, it sort of feels so silly that it should have been something that we had to think about, but here we are. And I think it's still not perfect, and we still have a lot of problems, but there have been strides in those spaces, which is really, really good to see and encouraging. I think especially that was a difficult time for everybody, but it's a time that I think a lot of people didn't want to stay in publishing for whatever reason, not because of this, but just, we were all having a difficult time and things change, but having kind of weathered it in some way, I'm glad to still be around. I think it feels like there are positive changes still happening. And then it's also, trends are changing, and there's lots of things. The last sort of few years we've seen, or the last sort of year or so especially, we've seen a massive uptick in fantasy, which is very good for me as somebody who basically loves to read fantasy and tried to make it my whole life. And especially romantasy, I think that's the buzzword of the season.
Yeah, I keep seeing that everywhere at the moment.
There, exactly. And I'm not against it, frankly. I think it's really good fun, and romance is still by far the most lucrative genre across all of them, and so it's nice to sort of see it being given a kind of mainstream feeling. People are acknowledging its importance and to the industry, kind of a backbone of the industry. So that's really nice to see as well. But yeah, it does feel different than when I started, but also I feel like I just know more about it. So maybe I just went in knowing nothing and feeling overwhelmed.
Do you know what? Because when you said like the romance, I hadn't really read. I mean, when I was younger, I used to read like loads of like Mills and Boon books. I don't know how I managed it, but I was like a teenager at a point when I was at home, and I'd managed to like subscribe to get Mills and Boon, and I didn't have a bank account. I don't know how it happened. So my poor mum was probably just getting all these invoices, thinking, who's reading these romance novels? And there's like a 13-year-old me going, oh, lovely,
saucy.
But I hadn't like read any sort of romance until, again, like quite recently. I think I'd read I recently read Book Lovers, which I think we read at the same time.
Yeah.
Up. And then like an Ali Hazelwood book, and I was like, I really enjoy them. So yeah, I'm like totally invested in romance now. So again, another like 30 years later or so. But yeah, I really enjoy it. So I'm really glad that it's just at the moment, because there's so many books to choose from, which makes it really nice.
It's so good.
Yeah. And you've recently updated your manuscript wish list, didn't you? I think you put something out on Twitter, and then was inundated with loads of submissions.
Yeah. It's always exciting when that happens. I think I forgot that was going to happen. Because I wasn't doing it with a strategic mind. I had made a change to my website page, and I thought, well, I changed my website page, I should probably put this on Twitter so that people know, because I felt I hadn't updated my Twitter in about 2 years. And then I was like, oh, this is actually not like a quiet time when I'm ready to read loads of submissions. So that was a shame. But it was really nice, and I've seen some really great stuff, and I always want to see submissions. So it's, I wish I had done it at a time when I was more available. But lessons learned. Yeah, so I had previously been doing just children's across the board, which I'm still doing and still love doing, and doing some sci-fi and fantasy on the adult side and for kids as well. And then I have recently updated to include romance and just talk a bit more about the kind of thing that I actually want in those spaces. My taste runs really commercial. I'm just a sucker for a really good story, and I just want to be having a really good time while I'm reading. I just want, someone to sort of take me away and to feel really safe in somebody's hands. I don't feel like I need to understand every single thing about the world that somebody writes, but I want to know that the author understands every single thing, or as much as possible anyway.
Did you sort of see that from reading like the synopsis when they send that in with the opening?
Yeah, it's the synopsis definitely helps to solidify that, but also I think it just comes through in writing if you've sort of thrown something in, but it doesn't necessarily factor back into the wider world, or it's sort of a cool thing, but there's no like it doesn't necessarily feel like it stands out of the world. I guess it doesn't feel as lived in, but it's really hard to put a pin exactly on what that means. But I think it comes just with familiarity with the world and the characters that you're writing about eventually. But no, I love world building, but I also don't like, I will never retain any of it. I'm much more interested in seeing a character like interact in a world and sort of go in and like have a normal day, and then we're like, oh, this is what a normal day in this world looks like. This is much better, gives me a much better sense of it than someone saying that like, and first there was the sun, and then there was a man, and then there was, I don't remember any of that, and I just sort of skip it. Anyway,
I'm kind of a bit the same in that kind of sense. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a place for it, and I think it can be really, you can create incredible worlds that way. I just don't feel that equipped to edit and pitch it, I think, is the thing. I think my comfort zone is very story and character led for anything across the board, like all ages, all genres. It's all, and I'm much better at that kind of thing. This is mainly about me just knowing my own weaknesses in this way.
Yeah, well, I think because you're obviously putting so much work into working with your clients and making sure their book is as good as it can be to go out there, you need to know that you can do that. So I think it's definitely, it makes sense and it's the right thing to do.
Like, I'm not going to pitch myself to somebody if I don't feel like I'm the person to champion the thing. I don't want to do someone a disservice just because there have been books that I've turned down because I can see that they're probably going to go on to really great things, but I just don't feel equipped to be the person to take it there.
Oh, wow.
Which has happened to me a few times, and it's just I'm like, you know what? I'm actually just not the best agent for this job. I think there are people and books that I am a very, very good agent for, but it's if I don't feel like I'm going to be the person who can take you through your whole career, then there's not really any point in me.
Wow, that's really interesting, because like you'd think if that's something like that happens and that book then just blows up, you'd be kicking yourself. But actually, if you knew that you still wasn't right for that, I think that's a brave that's a brave thing to say. I think it's a really good way of looking at it, because that might not have happened if you, like you said, if you couldn't do that, if you'd felt like you couldn't do that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, you can be the best agent in the world and not be the right agent for somebody, and I think that's totally valid. You see it with people who have an agent and they worked with them together for years and can't get anywhere, and then they move to another agent who just has some other thing, don't know what it could be, and then it suddenly sort of clicks into place, and you can't necessarily tell if that's going to happen, but it's I think it's much about, I think we can get so caught up in just the desperation to have an agent because it's such a difficult thing. I know it's a difficult thing to get an agent, that actually who it is sometimes stops mattering, because it's like, I just need to have an agent, and actually sometimes it's better to hold out for the right person.
But yeah, I think, because hopefully it will be a lifelong relationship, so you need to be able to work together have that relationship on the kind of level, like you can chat and feel comfortable with them, but also knowing that they're on the same page as you when it comes to your work. I think that's really,
definitely.
So when it comes to sort of being out on submission and you're sending out the submissions, because we're talking just about sort of kids literature at the moment, what have you noticing that publishers are acquiring at the moment? What are they looking for?
The thing that we seem to be having the most success with is funny. I think that's evergreen, but funny right now is when I'm sending things out, the stuff that's getting a good response is the stuff that's making people laugh out loud. And I think in picture books especially, but this goes for, into fiction, young fiction. The funnier, the better. It's funny, I love toilet humor, but
Me too, as you know.
yes, I know you know toilet humor, but I think some publishers are sort of off on it, but then I'm out on something at the moment that's being taken to acquisitions that is quite toilet humory, and I was like, what? Why? Like, I don't understand. Like, I love it, but like you sometimes get conflicting information, and maybe it's just the text itself, and it's they're like, we love it because it's this specific angle on toilet humor, and it's not too far. It's not. Who knows? Because I'm not in those meetings, sadly, but always getting a good reaction to the funnier the better, and sort of very irreverent, quite like silly, things with a real narrative thread, but can be quite bonkers if you want it to be bonkers.
Yeah, because it's interesting when you're talking about the picture books because it's such a hard market. So funny picture books is what we're looking for at the moment.
I think you can't go wrong. It's not an easy thing to do at all, but that feels like a safe bet for me right now. I guess a bit older, it's slightly harder to say. I've been doing a little bit less in that space recently. But we sort of hear from editors that magical middle grade it's too oversaturated. We couldn't possibly, and then you see another bookseller article about how another magical middle grade went in a 6-figure deal, and you're like, okay, I don't know what you want from me then. So I think it sort of always depends on the perfect project. I think there are no blanket no's at the moment. It's sort of could be anything, but also spooky kind of younger horror is kind of I've been hearing from a few editors.
Some books coming out that are younger horror, horror. Yeah, definitely spooky.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, it's hard when it's horror because there's only so much you can do when it's for someone who's 12.
Yeah, Goosebumps though. I mean, that was a bit scary, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember those. Oh, gosh, those are so scary.
Well, I mean, I was a bit old for them, but my younger brother used to read them and watch the show, and I was
God, yeah.
That dummy, I don't remember his name. That used to freak me out. It will come to me at some point, but so spooky young fiction as well. That's good.
Yeah.
How about like chapter books? Because I feel like so many people are noticing that there's like not that many. When we do like these Right Mentor, there's a Right Mentor group, and they've done like Novel in Development Awards and things like that, and they'll let you know what is like the most submitted genre, and generally chapter books is generally like the smallest one. So
interesting.
It kind of shows that maybe not as many people are going for chapter books, and they're going picture books are always. So many people are writing them, and the middle grade as well. They seem to be like taking up the big space. So, how about what do you think when it comes to chapter books? A lot of them are done in house, I've heard. So
yeah, this is my feeling. I think it's also there's not as much kind of guidance about it, and I think it's you can find 1,000 articles on how to write your middle grade and 1,000 seminars on the perfect picture book, but it's a tricky space, I suppose, because I think a lot of people write them or commission them in house, at least. So they come from publishers. It will be a publisher intellectual property in a way. So that can make it harder. But I think also it's kind of an age group. It's got a lot of crossover with both ends. So it's I think people think it's less glamorous as well. I think there's it
You
doesn't
look
feel
at
like.
Isadora Moon, you're like,
I
wow.
mean, Isadora Moon, as you know, I love Isadora and Harriet, but
Yeah.
it's that's certainly our kind of biggest thing in this space. But that's also had a huge global success.
Mhm.
So I think it sells best in Spain,
Oh, really?
of
Wow.
any all of its territories, including the UK. So it's an interesting bit of publishing because it's not necessarily actually geared at the home market in the same way as some other things are. Although picture books also are kind of geared to a worldwide printing. But yeah, I think it doesn't. I think when you don't necessarily see huge auctions for chapter books, so people look at the bookseller and they don't think, oh, chapter books are the thing to be writing. I must write a chapter book because that's the thing that's going to get me a 9 publisher auction. And then on the flip side of that, people think that picture books are very easy, which, as we know, they are not easy. They're very hard to write and to sell, but they are, we love them, and I think you can't do it if you don't just love them. But I think people don't have that same nostalgia about chapter books either. I think a lot of it is kind of an emotional thing as well. People don't necessarily gravitate to writing them because it's a format people don't really understand as well, and it doesn't seem like it's really, really splashy or really nostalgic in that way. And you don't sort of buy them for your friends' kids in the way that you do like picture books.
No, that's right. Because I think, yeah, no, because if I was buying a book for that sort of age, I would tend to be looking at picture books still, because kids still love reading picture books, like
Yeah.
6 years old, and this is kind of the age that chapter books are aimed at, like between like 5 and 8, really, aren't they? So,
No,
but I absolutely love writing them. I really enjoy it. It's fun. Just gives you that little bit more freedom than a picture book does, but still on a kind of similar kind of style in a way, but with just a bit more.
Yeah, you're thinking about it as an illustrated thing as well, so you sort of expect it to be really gorgeous, which is always nice. And the final package looks really good. Yeah, I think there's something I really love chapter books. I just think they're a nice sort of graduation almost. I guess that's the point of them.
Yeah.
From picture books.
And I'll just do a quick little plug here on here for Amy Sparks, because she does a great turn your picture book into a chapter book workshop. And she also does one talking about funny books. She does a writing humour workshop, and she's amazing, and they're all really affordable as well. So I'll definitely check that out if anyone's looking to start writing chapter books and funny. She does a whole lot of other things as well. So we were chatting about the pitch book market, so what is it actually? So when you're like sending out a submission and you're sending out like 3 or 4 pitch books to publishers, what is actually like happening? What are you seeing happening at the moment when you're sending these submissions out for people?
At the moment, it's August. So what's happening at the moment is I get about 9 out of offices, which is, I think that's kind of part of the course, which is why I haven't sent out anything for a couple of weeks. But it's yeah, I think that's it kind of goes back to the funny thing. I think what I'm seeing people respond to is really funny books. But I think it's still just really hard. It's publishers, they're buying books really far in the future because they've already filled up 2024, and it takes a long time to produce a picture book because you have to once the text is done, you have to commission an illustrator, and then they have to have time for it in their schedule, and then the illustrations take a really long time. So they're always thinking about what they've got space for on their list. And I think increasingly the feedback that we get is, oh God, this is so great, but in 2026, I'm publishing a really similar book, or like it's got really similar themes or really similar characters. And that's such a difficult thing to hear, but it's encouraging because it means you're on the right lines, but it's disappointing because it's timing as much as anything else, which can be brutal.
Yes, that's definite, because I've had a few of those on the last submission with definitely with one of the books. It was like one of them so if most publishers like, we're already publishing something really similar and you're right, it's really hard to take, but also again you're right, it does make you go, right, okay, good, I know that I can do this, and I know that I'm on the right track, and I will get there at some point in the future, and it will happen.
Exactly.
But just getting that feedback from publishers is really, really helpful as a writer. You know, I know that I've taken some of that feedback, and even like reworked some stuff, like whether or not it'll ever see the light and can work again with that in the future. And it helps me when I'm writing again more picture books. So I think it's really, really, really good that the publishers are giving you feedback to you, and then you're passing it on to your clients. So for me, thank you. But I'd imagine that's what happens, and it's really helpful to writers. So when people want to query you, because I know this is going to be something that people are really interested in, what's your preferred method, and how do you like your queries coming in?
How do I like my eggs in the morning? I only take submissions over email. Anything else it's just going to get lost. Even if you call me, all I'm going to say is please email me, because I'm not going to remember anything.
Well, people do that. People will look up a phone number and do a pitch over the phone. Is that something?
Yeah, they do. I don't love phone calls, and that's just me. I just don't like to be on the phone generally. But also, honestly, it doesn't matter how great a chat we have on the phone. It's always going to come down to the writing, no matter what. I will always read the writing, and I will always make a decision based on that. So I would just love to see it in the simplest possible way, which is, send me an email, and in the body of the email, write a cover letter telling me the name of the book, what it is, who you are, a blurb, a pitch, and I would like to see a synopsis. I know that synopses are really hard to write, so I'm not like really hard on synopses, and then I will jump pretty much straight into reading chapters or picture book texts. You don't need to write a pitch and a blurb for a picture book. Just a pitch is fine. There's only so many words that you have. And word count is really useful for picture books, especially because you can sort of quite quickly see what you're getting in for, I think, with that.
Yeah. Are you still looking around like 500 words roughly for picture books? Is that still a good mark? Yeah,
that's a really good benchmark. I think up to, I wouldn't want to see over like 800 if you can possibly help it. I think revisit it and figure out if it really needs to be 800 words. And if it really, really needs to be 800 words, it better feel justified in the text. But yeah, and shorter isn't worse, because it leaves room for the illustrations. I want to see that you're keeping illustrations in mind when you're doing any writing in any form that requires illustration, which is, could be picture books, could be illustrated chapter books, up to kind of that middle grade black and white fiction as well. I mean, I don't need you to write illustration directions for the older stuff, but it's just knowing that it might be, or definitely will be, illustrated.
Yeah. So for a chapter book, for instance, because I think with picture books, a lot of people will know that they'll place it out in spreads, and then they'll have the illustration notes there. But when it comes to the next stage of chapter books, not notes, but just if you're reading the book, you'll be able to know whether or not that writer's been thinking about what this could look like illustration wise. So that's a really good tip, I think.
It definitely doesn't have to be written out like every single illustration or vignette that there might be. Knowing that it's going to be a collaborative process as well. I think it's useful to see. But yes, only emails, and physical books I just can't. I'm only in the office a few days a week, and I get a lot of post, and I don't want wouldn't want it to get lost. Any kind of original artwork I wouldn't want to get lost. That would be terrible.
Yeah.
So, best to email it to me, please.
So with picture books, how many would you be looking for to read of somebody's?
I like to see 3 picture books, preferably, and preferably not in a series. I think more is fine, but kind of pick your favorites, because I'm I'm going to make a decision probably based on a couple.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't like the first two, I don't know if I'm going to read the third one. So there's no point in giving me 12 because I'll get a sense of your writing very quickly, and I'll go for the one in the pitch that sounds the most fun first, and then work my way through. But yeah, I might not get all the way down all of them.
I like the prioritizing there. Your favourite one goes first. You're not saving the best till last. That's good.
Yeah, no, yeah. Give me your favorite one is the absolute top line. I see people who, when they send their submissions, they say like this one plus others, and I'm like, I'm going to read that one first then, because that's obviously your favorite, and I quite like that because I think that's good to know, and it shows me where your priorities are as well. What you're going to want us to work on. That's the main thing. So yes, I think a sort of three to five if you can't pick your favorites. Yeah, not in a series. And I say this just because the point of having multiple picture books is to show range and the breadth of your portfolio that you've been working on, to just show that you kind of got longevity. And it's like we were saying earlier, it's not just about the one book, it's about your career. So we're always thinking about the next projects as well.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about like showing your range, so are you thinking like if you write in rhyme, show some rhyme, also show some prose? Think about that sort of genre. If you're writing funny, but would you want all, like if someone wrote across like the board, but they just sent in their top 3 and they were all funny, would you like to see what other things they can do as well? Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, I think it's kind of up to you what you want to show me. At the end of the day, if I was going to give someone advice on like the perfect selection, I would say to go away and make your favorites into one funny, one like bedtime, like night at the end of this book. Everyone's really sleepy and we're all going to bed picture book, and maybe just like a wild card. I think those two, and then sort of something else that shows me who you are as a writer. Whether or not that's another bedtime book or another funny book, that's fine. But it's yeah, I want to see range. But if you all you want to write is funny, just show me a range of funny.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And I get a lot of people asking me, and I see it often when people are talking to agents, if they write just say picture books and YA, or picture books and chapter books, for instance, can they pitch to you or everything in one, or would you rather see that separately, or does it really not matter? How do you feel about a varied query?
I have been thinking about this a lot. I'm not super fussy about it. I think it helps me to know that you write other things, but it's the kind of thing that would come up in a chat. If things are sort of to get that far. It is hard to say because I don't want to put people off. I think if you know that you want to be writing all of those things and they're all ready at exactly the same time and they're all at exactly the same standard, then by all means send everything to me. But I think firstly, I know that there aren't that many agents who do picture books. I think we're probably one of quite a small group. I mean, there's a lot of agents, so that small group isn't that small. But a normal children's agent may not represent picture books, so it may not be that relevant for a lot of people. And I know a lot of people who represent middle grade and YA, and then they have clients who submit to me saying my agent doesn't do picture books, but is happy for me to look elsewhere for just this specific thing, that's fine. I'm very happy to see that. So it's difficult to know. I think it depends on the project, which is a horrible thing to say. If you think that the middle grade and the YA are really up my street from what you've seen on my manuscript wish list, I think if you write picture books and you write middle grade and you write YA, but you only write like super contemporary or like super literary middle grade, that's not really necessarily what I'm looking for. But you really want me to look at your picture books and you want me to kind of do everything, even though I it's not necessarily my bag. The fact is that if I signed you for your picture books and you wanted to write something older, I would probably work with you on it. So it depends so much on the situation and the person, which feels like a huge cop-out answer. I don't think that there's a right or wrong way to do it, unfortunately.
Right. Okay. So I mean, I'm thinking like what you said is if it's looking like what you are looking for in your wish list, and it's something that's finished, and you feel passionate that it's good enough to go out, then possibly that you would look at it. But just to check that it's what you're looking for, I think is what's important.
Yes, that's a very good way of summing up what I was trying to say. Thank you. I think I think the likelihood of they're all the absolute prime standard and perfect and ready at the same time does feel unlikely. But maybe that's just me.
I think it can depend on how long someone's been querying for as well.
That's a good point.
As well. Yeah. Because I mean, I know, like, often, as you know, that I do write across the board. I think the only thing I haven't written is middle grade, and that probably will happen at some point. As Willow gets older, and I'm reading more middle grade stuff, and she's reading it, then I'll go, oh, I've got an idea, and I'll be like, Molly. But I think I've kind of lost where I was going now. But right, I think because I would have had like all this time of writing these books, but obviously writing novels takes quite a long time. I've been writing my YA now for like writing it because I completely started rewriting it. So since the beginning of this year, because of being awarded the Arts Council funding, which isn't part of your manuscript wish list. So it'd be quite interesting to see if there's something that you'll like eventually if I ever finish it, which I have to by December because it's part of my agreement with the Arts Council. So it will be finished. So that's really interesting, and I think really helpful for people that do write across the board, because it's something that people just really are quite concerned about. I'd say, like, they really want an agent that will work with them across everything. So just to check that it's what you're looking for, and just to make sure that you're comfortable knowing that it's good enough to be out there querying.
I think I just to kind of add, I think it does. I think when someone is already a client, as we said, sort of it's I have much more of a kind of gung-ho attitude about it, because I'm like, yeah, let's do things. Let's work on the thing. Whereas if it's not already a client, I'm a bit like, oh, are we, I don't know where you want me to be focusing, because I'm also thinking strategically about your career and what we should be doing and how much you have time for and where your debut will be and all of those kinds of things. So I think in your heart of hearts, you probably know which your favorite thing is. Probably. Could be wrong, but I think probably. Like, just because you do all of the things doesn't mean that they are what you really, really want. I don't know. It's hard to know. Everyone's different.
But I think again, like, that's a really interesting thing, because I think people just think, oh, I'd love to write. Well, I mean, I do. I'm like, I love to write children's books, but obviously YA feels completely different. And at times I'm like, I absolutely love this. This is where I want to go. And then there's at times I go, I don't want to do that, and I'm just going to focus on picture books for now. And then I do that, and then obviously we're doing chapter books. But I think that's like a very good idea, and especially because I really enjoyed that book. But that we'll save that for another chat, because that's not for Kidlit Live. But I think because I'm here I was really trying to just help other people that are on their querying journey, that or maybe just getting an agent, they don't really know what it's like. So this is why I kind of set up Kidlit Live, really. But I think another question people often ask is it okay to nudge? Because it's like you feel so scared to do it. Like, you're sitting there and an agent that you've queried, that you really want to work with, had your query for, well, you've checked their website. I think yours is like 12 to 15 weeks on United Agents, I think
so. Yeah.
You're waiting, and it's like 15 weeks, and you're like, I've not heard. Is it okay to nudge you? Is there a way that you prefer a nudge? I know we don't face Facebook anymore, so we can just
no, we don't do that anymore. Sad. Yes, I think it is okay to nudge. I think a follow-up email forwarding everything is really helpful. It's harder for me to then I have to go like, oh, and I have to go and find the original email and find all of the attachments and everything. So I think if you just forward your original email and say, hi, it's been a while, I'm just checking in on this. It's, I spend a huge part of my day chasing people. It's a big part of my job. And we all have to just accept that we're going to get chased on things if we're slow. And I think we all kind of know that's part of being a grown up with a job, is that people are going to chase you if you haven't got to something, and it's not the end of the world. When I first started out, it was absolutely the end of the world to be chased on anything, and then I realized that I was spending every day chasing people for things, and I never thought that they were bad people because I had to chase them. So no, I expect to be chased if I haven't got back to people, and I always feel terrible about the wait, but it just is what it is. Unfortunately, I've been doing better, I promise. But it's I think it's okay to nudge. I think just be polite and understand that basically a submission is like a job application. It's and then it also, I think there's a reasonable expectation that an agent who is interested will come back to you, and you have to take into consideration how long it takes people to do things. And I mean, the fact is that the reason I'm not replying is because I'm prioritizing my existing clients, so maybe that's appealing in its way, but I expect to be nudged. I don't mind being nudged, and I think as long as people are nice.
Yeah.
I've had people say it's been 14 weeks since and you have not, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I haven't been counting the weeks, and I've just been doing the thing, and I feel bad. And which is, it's the guilt doesn't make me feel more excited about the book.
No.
I think but I think nudge me if I'm being slow, nudge me, and I will try to reply to you quickly.
Well, the thing is, and I think what a lot of people probably don't realise as well is that, like you said earlier, you're sending nudges. You're putting people out there on submission. You're waiting to hear back from publishers, and you're also nudging. So you know how we feel, and I think it's so important for writers to know that you're also in a very similar boat. You're passionate about the work that your client has done, that you've worked together on, and you want them to succeed just as much as they want themselves to succeed. So
definitely,
you're really trying as well behind that. You can't see what everybody's doing, but you're sending out these nudges, so it's how it feels. So it's okay for people to nudge you politely. So that's, I think,
definitely. That's and over email again. Please don't call me.
It's been 14 weeks.
Because also, if you call me, then I have to try and figure out what your name is from a phone call. If I've missed the call and it's a voicemail, then I have to be trying to spell someone's name and searching it in my inbox. So that I'm like, I just really hope you send me an email, because otherwise I'm never going to be able to find you.
Most people email, right? I would say that it's most people. That's
most people. Emails. I love an email. The emails are great.
So, and talking about email submissions, you probably get like a ton of them. Like we said, after you put out your tweet with your updated wish list, you had lots. So what advice would you give to writers that are really looking to make their query stand out in your, you don't even really call it like a slush pile anymore, because it's on email. So
the whole inbox is just a big old pile. I think there's a lot of advice about this. I don't know. I think clarity, and I think you can be quite brief. I was thinking about this in terms of what I would, if I was writing a submission, like if I was writing a submission to an agent, all of the things that I would be tempted to say and do, that I realized that I would never they wouldn't have helped somebody get my attention in a good way. I think I would have been going, but no, don't worry. I know it sounds like this, but actually it's actually really good because of this, which is what I would think I would do if I was trying to submit for myself. I'm much better at pitching clients. It's much easier for somebody who's not you, because you can see things much more objectively. But when it's your own work, I think the temptation to be self-deprecating or to be defensive is it's a big temptation, because it's really hard to big yourself up to a stranger and say, my work is actually, I'm really proud of it and I think it's really good and that's why I want you to read it. I think I don't want to see someone saying, dear sir. I say this every time. It's not going to be the be all and end all, but the odds are you're wrong. So it's not a safe bet to say dear sir. But I'm not gonna yell at you if you spell my name wrong. I don't really care about that. What do I want to see? I think, yeah, give me a brief introduction. I already know why you're writing to me. You don't have to sort of beg me to read the query, because I'm like, I'm ready. I want to read it. This is how I find writers. This is what I'm here for.
So you're not too worried about people really researching you and going, I want to work with you because of this. You know, yeah.
I think I'm fortunate. Oh, sorry, I missed that because I was talking.
Oh, sorry. I said I think that can be important to some people. But yeah. I've also heard conflicting things about that too.
I think there's a fine line, probably. For me, I think I'm quite lucky in that I work at a really big established agency. So, and I'm kind of I'm one of 3 people dedicatedly doing children's books, and I'm one of the only people who's specifically looking for kind of sci-fi and fantasy. So, you know, the real reason that you're writing to me is because I work at UA and I represent this area, and that is good enough for me. I have had people who submit and they say, I remember this, it really sticks in my head. It's from years ago now, but someone was like, I said, I see you're a tennis fan, because I tweeted about Wimbledon once. And I was like, oh. I mean, yes, I do like tennis, but it doesn't feel that I just feel a bit watched. And actually, I'm just like, as I was saying earlier, I'm just kind of a person with a day job, and I have things that I like to read, and I work with those books. So yeah, for me, I don't need you to know my life story. I find it I find it unnerving, but it's not bad. It's just I'm like, oh gosh, like I'm a real person that people want to send things to. They've looked me up, and that still confuses me. However many is in. But I think I want you to send me the stuff that I like to read, and so I want you to know what that is ahead of time. Like, I'm not that interested in military history. You should not be sending me military history, because that doesn't say anywhere online that I like it. But yeah, if you know, that's good enough for me. I would like you to have looked at my website page. I don't need you to reference it in great detail, but I do like it when people say, oh, I saw you referenced Gideon the Ninth. I loved Gideon the Ninth. Partly because it's just nice to know that I'd be having a chat with someone who likes to read what I like to read.
Yeah.
So it's a bit more about it's the human element of it, I think, more than I don't want you to be a fan of me, because whatever there is out there of me on the internet is not a good representation of me and the work that I do. I don't tweet very often. I don't put out that much stuff, because I'm much more focused on just like doing my job day to day. Yeah. So there shouldn't be that much stuff about my personality, because that stuff is all very secret and behind the scenes and and hidden away, which is a shame in some ways, because you don't want to feel like you're gatekeeping, but also so much of the work we do is the kind of the back and forth with editors and maintaining those relationships and really individual focused work with clients. It's not, yeah, I feel like I've gone off on a massive tangent. But I think if you've looked at my website page and what's on there makes you want to submit to me, that's great.
And like you said, if something's relevant to, like, you've read the same book, because if you put that on the website, then that would, if you feel like it's a relevant thing to say, then I think that's a good thing as well. So yes, I think that's really helpful for people that are looking to query, and I wonder if there'll be more submissions landing in overnight now they know how to query you. So but no, it's been, I think, really lovely to talk to you, really helpful for people. And this is exactly like I said earlier, is what I want from Kidlit Live, for people to be able to watch and listen and just be inspired and know where or what to do or how to submit to you, and as when I have writers and illustrators on, I feel people just, I've had so much good feedback, and how, like I said, how inspiring the people that are on here are, and as you have been tonight. And I think it's been really, really great for people, and I've loved chatting with you, as I always do. So and it's a lot shorter tonight than our last video call, so
yeah, that's true. Yeah, we could just go on forever. We could just carry on. But thank you for having me. I think it's such a wonderful platform that you've made, so I'm really pleased to be here. And yeah, I hope it was useful. I just feel like I rambled on for an hour. So
no, I definitely don't think you rambled. I think it was really, it was really clear. I think, yeah, I will I always rewatch it because I do the little quote things after. So I will rewatch it and I'll let you know if I think.
You're like, there is nothing here. There are no sound bites at all.
So yeah, a roundup. Molly's wish list is science fiction, science fantasy fiction, romance, and funny books across children's and adults. Funny adults. There's fun, lots of
funny.
Yeah, so that's all. Look for. Email, no phone calls. That's it. So
yes, please.
Oh,
loads of phone calls tomorrow.
No phone calls. That's it. I don't know. It's a bit. You can't even do that anymore. Like, take the phone off the hook. I'm still living in the 80s and 90s.
I've got do not disturb on the app, but I don't use it because I actually do answer my phone. I just would rather not.
Oh, brilliant. This has been so great. Thank you so much. Chris has said thank you so much, and it's been lovely to tune in. So brilliant. Thanks so much, Molly. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for chatting. It's been really great to chat to you.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. If you ever want to come back, obviously you are always welcome. So that's really great. Thanks again, and I'll catch up with you very soon. Yes. See you later. Bye. I think that was really, really helpful, because as I've said a couple of times, this was one of the reasons why Kidlit Live was set up, to help people on their journeys. So I hope you found it really, really helpful. If you have any questions, do let me know. I'm not here next week. It's my birthday, so I'm not doing a Kidlit Live next week. But I'm back the following week, and I'll be talking to the lovely writer Tracy Bullock, and I'm really excited to chat to her because she is an amazing writer and a great friend, and she's very funny. So talking about funny books, she writes brilliant funny books, so I'm really looking forward to chatting to her. So that's the following week on the Tuesday. So I'll see you all then.